and gentlemen, boys and girls, all ages, welcome to the very first edition of the Cooper Valicious Show, or podcast, whatever you call it, on the great platform of YouTube. I'm Cooper Valicious, and you're in the Valicious Hour. Now, before I start, I do not take any sides to perspective. I am not a Republican or Democrat. I am an independent. My opinions do align with some Democrats and Republican opinions. But without further ado, let's not talk about that. Let's get into this week's top news stories. So, on Monday, if everybody was watching, the Iran launched a counterattack or retaliation against the U.S. strikes over the past weekend. That Iran launched 6 ballistic missiles towards a U.S. base in Qatar or Qatar, whatever you call it. Now, most all of the ballistic missiles were shot down by Qatar military or Air Force, but one got through. One did hit the U.S. base in Qatar, but caused no damage and caused no casualties or people were hurt. So with that, President Trump did not retaliate against Iran, but launched a peace deal that almost broke, with Iran and Israel striking both. But on the last second, President Trump called Prime Minister Netanyahu and told Prime Minister Netanyahu to turn the flames around. And Netanyahu did. So with that, Iran and Israel still today are not launching any attacks right now, but the war is still going on. But President Trump is doing everything in his might to stop it. Now, my opinion, President Trump did do the right thing of launching those B-2 bombers and bunker buster bombs to the Iran nuclear facilities and blew them all up. And most of those facilities are all blown up now. So, whatever came out of the Pentagon or whatever media found that evidence that bunker buster bombs that hit it, and if you see the tunnels of the Fordo site, all the tunnels are inaccessible. So you can't get inside of the plants or the nuclear facility. So I think, in my belief, it was set back for years. But talking about nuclear program, in the next upcoming, in about a short time from now, we are going to have a nuclear engineer on my show talking about the new nuclear renaissance that's happening here in my state of Tennessee and the next big Manhattan project. Let's get to what I was talking about. But President Trump did do the right thing. And I believe that the nuclear program in Iran was set back for years and years. And I don't think Iran is going to build a nuclear program back because of Israel and the U.S. And if they do, it's going to get set back again and again and again if we have the right leader in office. But on Tuesday, President Trump went to the NATO summit in the Netherlands and made every European country pay up. Now, the America's leadership is back in a big way. And after Trump took action to take down Iran's nuke and negotiate a peace or ceasefire for Iran and Israel, 12 days of war, the Secretary of NATO called him a strong, peaceful person and also made headlines of calling him daddy. Now that cracked me up when Trump is in the NATO picture, and the secretary of NATO called him Daddy. So now I feel like President Trump's new nickname for every European now is Daddy. Daddy. I mean, all the European leaders are calling him that. Let's of him calling him Daddy. But the only country that did not pay was Spain. And Spain's economy, look at Spain's economy. They make a lot of money off tourism. And their economy is great. But they did not pay. And President Trump, he's going to make Spain extra pay twice as the other European countries. As of the other European countries that only pay once. So, if any of y'all were watching the news this week, the New York Democrat primary was this week. Now, with that, upcoming rising Democrat star in New York, Mandara Zandara, a Muslim leader in New York, won and defeated former New York Governor Cuomo. Now, New York has been a special place in my heart. I've been there probably more than 40 times, not even counting when I fly into JFK and go out internationally to other international destinations around the world. My father's from New York. My great-great-grandparents came over from the island of Crete in Greece. That's where my family is originated from, and came the legally way through Ellis Island. There's actually a brick of my family's name at Ellis Island. And my great-great-grandparents started a media business. What is Mandara ideas? How's he going to pay for it? But some of his ideas, he wants to make universal child care for free. He wants to start a new department in the New York government to combat mental health. He wants to make the NYPD, defund the NYPD, and make them into social workers. He wants to tax people in taxi cabs by the color of their skin. Question is, how is Mandara going to pay for this? He wants to raise the New York corporate tax by 50%. And it's one of the highest in the nation. And are these billionaires, millionaires, tech companies, financial companies, all going to stay in New York if he wins? No. They're going to move to red states, like my state of Tennessee, Texas, Florida. Look at Florida and North Carolina. Charlotte, North Carolina is becoming the bank capital of the world. They're the second biggest bank capital of the world, right behind Wall Street. Florida, Palm Beach, or West Palm Beach, is becoming the Wall Street of the South. My state of Tennessee, the city of Nashville here in the state of Tennessee, is becoming one of the tech capitals of the world because Oracle is moving their world headquarters here. Texas, their economy is thriving. So, my point is, if he does win, there will be a mass exodus out of the city of New York. An exodus that we've never seen before. So, my hope is, if the city of New York wants to save itself from SOS, maybe the New Yorkers need to wake up, smell the coffee a little bit, and elect somebody a little bit better than Zandara. Okay? I mean, if he wins, I'm sorry to say this, but New York, they're going to be in a heap of trouble because he will do everything in his might to ruin that city. And I've seen great cities in America like Los Angeles like the city of Memphis in my state of Tennessee, and a lot of these cities, they have great culture, great stuff, great food, like the city of Memphis, but they're declining because of poor leadership. Have some leadership like Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan, in almost 40 years, has the population has went up. People are moving there now because of their leadership. And I know you're thinking maybe I'm lying. No, I'm not. Look it up because the city of Detroit is now a little bit thriving because they have great leadership. So, but next, in about a few moments, here in the state of Tennessee, the economy is thriving, right? So the next Manhattan Project is coming here to the state of Tennessee, the East Tennessee Oak Ridge, where they made the first Manhattan Project. Now, we're going to have a nuclear engineer by the name of Drew Shayadovich join us right here in my studio here in the great state of Tennessee. And he's going to talk about the nuclear renaissance that's happening here in Tennessee. He's going to talk about nuclear power and talk about other stuff that involves nuclear energy. So, further ado, let's welcome Drew Shayadovich.
Thanks for having me.
So, nuclear power is very important here in the U.S. Important here in the state of Tennessee. So, talk to us. What do you do as a nuclear engineer?
So, as a nuclear engineer, my job is to design the fuel that we use in all of our reactors.
Okay.
So, every 18 months, the reactors shut down and they refuel with new fuel rods and uranium. So, my job is to decide how much uranium we're going to put in the core,
Okay.
how we can safely design it. And then, after it's designed, we perform all of the safety checks for the new reactor and do all of the licensing work to make sure that we can safely and efficiently operate the next cycle of the reactor.
Okay. So, what does the future of nuclear power industry look like?
I think there's a few different pieces of the future of nuclear that are important to consider. The first thing is we need to continue to take care of our existing fleet. So there's over 90 reactors in the United States that provide always on, clean, reliable electricity to a lot of people. We need to continue the efforts to refurbish those plants and do all of the maintenance work that we need to keep them running for the foreseeable future so they can continue to provide that baseload power source.
Okay.
Beyond that, we need to continue to invest in the future of nuclear, which looks like extending the life of those plants so that they can continue to operate beyond their original 40-year life. So a lot of plants have seen what we call license renewal that takes their lifetime from 40 out to 60 years. And even now, what we're starting to see in the industry is what we call second license renewal, which allows those plants to operate beyond 60 years out to 80 years. So we need to take care of extending those plants. And then even further into the future, we need to continue to develop new reactor designs, advanced reactors, small modular reactors for all kinds of different um, applications and the growing nuclear industry and support.
Okay, well, thank you. So, what are the thoughts of advantage of a reactor designs, such as a small module reactor?
Sure. So a lot of excitement around advanced reactors. They provide a lot of different opportunities for different applications. So what we have in the United States now is a lot of large scale um, pressurized and boiling water reactors. They all use light water or regular H2O as their cooling source. They all use regular uranium as their fuel source. And they sort of just are big, heavy type of units that just run 100% power all the time. And they provide a lot of electricity to a lot of people. The advantages of some of the advanced reactors is that they are smaller. So they're not only cheaper, but you can put them on less land. They can be used for smaller applications. There's things as small as micro reactors that can fit in the size of a backpack and help the military applications. There's small modular reactors, which reduce the cost compared to a large reactor and also can fit on less land and have better land usage. And they're cheaper to build. So, one of the biggest challenges with nuclear is it is expensive to scale. So, rather than spending a lot of money on a large reactor, you can spend less money on a smaller reactor and you're going to create less power out of it. But there are plenty of applications where we can still use that smaller amount of power 300 megawatt range instead of 1,000 megawatts, save some money, and still use it as a proof of concept that the advanced reactors or small modular reactors can provide value.
Well, great. So, in the previous administration of president, they talked about climate change. How can about climate change a lot? How can nuclear energy contribute to addressing climate change?
I would say that nuclear is one of the biggest bipartisan agreements in terms of being good for the environment that we've seen in a long time. Everybody is starting to understand the science behind nuclear and why it's clean. It is a zero carbon emitting power source for us. We don't burn any coal, we don't burn any gas, we don't emit any carbon to the atmosphere when we are creating fuel, and that's because we're splitting the atom instead of actually burning material. So we create our steam and we spin our turbines by splitting the atom, which releases heat instead of doing various burning or other sources that release carbon into the atmosphere. So it's a clean source that can provide consistent electricity that people need.
Okay. So, how does nuclear hazards significant different from risk accept in society?
I think the biggest thing that scares people in terms of hazards is really just the unknown about nuclear. It has such a bad reputation because people are scared of nuclear. When you look down and kind of put all of your preconceived notions to the side and just look at the actual physics of nuclear, it's very safe. Even from a radiation standpoint, the amount of radiation dose that you can receive in a year by living next to a nuclear plant
Mhm.
is less than if your house is built out of brick, or if you take a flight from New York to Los Angeles, eating a few bananas or going to the dentist and getting an x ray. All of those activities that we do every day in our life give us more radiation dose than it would be to just be outside of a nuclear plant. So I think the biggest thing is that people don't understand nuclear. So naturally they're afraid of it. But if we were able to clearly explain it to people and teach people about nuclear, um, it would really help their support.
Okay. So, in natural disasters, how can the power productions remain safe during natural disasters like Helene or wildfires in California, like those?
Yep. So the biggest thing in nuclear that we talk about every day before every activity, safety is always first. So we are always the most important thing that we do is we consider safety. We protect the public um, from any sort of accident or anything along those lines. So um, anytime there is a storm approaching, we have plants that are on the coasts. We have plants that are on different fault lines that could have seismic activity or earthquakes. So the plants that are out on the coast could see hurricanes, different weather patterns, tornadoes. We plan for and have a plan for all of those different type of events. Depending on the storm, the operators will always take action to safely shut down the reactor before the storm gets there. Take a proactive approach to make sure that they've placed the plant in a safe order so that they could protect not only the people but also protect the plant during the disaster, and put it in a position to be able to start back up safely as soon as the disaster has passed or the need is there. One of the other interesting things when the plants were originally designed in the 60s and the 70s, they had what they call design basis accidents. So that is things like a tornado, an earthquake, a hurricane. So all of the plants were designed to withstand the worst of the worst, depending on where they are. So if you have a plant in North Carolina or in Tennessee, it might be more focused on protecting against tornadoes or protecting against earthquakes. If you have a plant on the coastline in Florida, it might be better to withstand hurricane winds, things that you don't have to worry about maybe in North Carolina. So
Mhm.
the plants were designed specifically with those accidents in mind. What we saw in 2011 was the accident at Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan, where they had a large scale tsunami and an earthquake at the same time.
Mhm.
So what we then, after 2011, the U.S. the nuclear industry took on a program called Flex, which essentially evaluated all of the plants for beyond design basis accidents. So we started with our design basis accidents, and now we start to study what is it beyond those accidents that's even crazier than we thought of back in the 60s and 70s, and how can we retrofit our plants to safely protect them and protect the people in the event of a beyond design basis accident. So now all of our plants have additional equipment. They all have additional flex domes where they store the equipment, and there are different stations set up throughout the country that can always respond to nuclear plants within 48 hours. of a disaster and provide them with additional equipment that all matches, all kinds of pumps, hoses, whatever they need, and it's all the same across the industry, so that no matter where it comes from, you can always provide that material and supplies to the plant so that they can protect it in the case of a disaster like that. So all of it is so that we can continue to protect the public, and again, to continue to provide safe and reliable electricity to the people.
Well, thank you. What do you think about the nuclear renaissance that's happening here
I
in the
think
state?
I think it's great. I think it's extremely important. Like I said, nuclear is not only is it a reliable source of energy, it has a over a 90% capacity factor, which means it's always on. It's always providing the electricity that it says it's going to. The fuel supply is very secured in the fact that it runs for 18 to 24 months at a time. You don't have to get new fuel every day. You don't have to rely on the sun coming out or the wind blowing or getting the train cars full of coal delivered once a month. Once the reactor is running, it has enough fuel for 2 years, um, and it's clean. So we talked about it doesn't emit carbon, so we're not contributing to the carbon footprint, and we're helping reduce carbon while still providing really important electricity for a lot of people at once.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
And God bless, and we'll talk later.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. With all you sports people, this week was a busy week for basketball. On Monday was a final game against Oklahoma Thunder and the Indianapolis Pacers that the Oklahoma Thunder did defeat the Indianapolis Pacers. The NBA draft was this week. Number 1 pick was Cooper Flagg out of Duke. Second was Dalen Harper, that went to the San Diego Spurs, and Cooper Flagg went to the Dallas Mavericks. This week was hot, not just here in the state of Tennessee, but throughout the country. Some of the numbers were up in the upper 100, were in the low 100s and upper 90s. So, with that concludes, ladies and gentlemen, our Cooper Bullets' show, episode 1 today. There will be a new episode every week. Thank you.